Hello, viewers, and welcome back to Mr. J's Big Book of Movies, where my quest is to find the best movies into land to put into my Big Book of Movies. What does it take to get into the Big Book? That's what we do here every weekend to find out. It is Monster Movie Month here on Big Book, and with that, we do monster movies all month. And today's monster movie is not a Godzilla ripoff, but it is a big giant monster coming out of the sea. I'm talking about Gorgo. For those that are wondering why it's called Gorgo, they say in the movie that it's supposed to represent the Gorgon, the beast that rose from the sea. Despite the fact the beast that rose from the sea is the Kraken, and the Gorgon is what Medusa is, a woman with snakes for hair because she claimed she was more beautiful than Aphrodite, and that was her punishment. Anyways, Gorgo was released on March 29th, 1961. It was directed by Eugene Laurie and stars Bill Travis, William Sylvester, and Vincent Winter. IMDb states that greedy sailors capture a giant lizard off the coast of Ireland and sell it to a London circus. Then its mother shows up. Yes, that's exactly what happens. And it's funny because this is one of the rare cases where the monster's in the right. Like, they show the fact that, you know, what you captured is a child, and the parent, that's what they call it, the mother. The parent may still be there, so they use all this firepower to destroy this monster for no reason, just because it's there. You know what I'm saying? They're the Navy, the Air Force. You know, they're just totally kicking this monster's ass just because it's there. So let's see how it stacks up to the challenge. Starting with the rewatch factor, I would give Gorgo a 2. I've watched it with someone who's never seen it before. Other than that, I really wouldn't watch it. This is a 60s monster movie, and with that, just remember that it's a 60s monster movie. It was made in the United Kingdom, so for once, monsters didn't invade the United States. How about that? That's really cool to see. Other than that, it's a little lower budget. Some of the cinematography, they did some cool stuff, like when the rocks were falling, and they spliced it in a way so that actual rocks weren't falling on people. So that was a cool effect. But rewatchability, I would give it a 2. Storyline wise, I would give Gorgo a 4 because the monster was in the right. So, like I said before, they captured this monster with a net, which I thought was really odd, but hear me out. So then they determined that the monster that they captured is a child in his infancy. And so this big, huge monster comes, and he's wrecking the Navy, he's wrecking the Air Force, he's going through the city, he destroys London Bridge, and he wrecks Big Ben, you know what I'm saying? So you have to hit the landmarks, and they're trying all these things to stop it, when all it wanted to do was get its child. Literally, after it frees its child, it turns around and goes back to the sea. So it's like everything was your fault. You know, if you hadn't captured the baby, then none of this would have happened. So, good job. With characters, it gets a 1. It's a monster movie. You're more worried about the monster than the character. So, of course, the acting was terrible. There's this really weird narrator, and he was commentating, like he was a news person. But remember, this was apparently the time where it was news radio and not news cameras, so he was narrating what was going on via the radio. And I feel he did a good job, but that was like the only acting that was really in the movie. And there was this weird kid, and he was very happy that the mother monster was wrecking shit. They zoomed him in, and like he was smiling and everything, and he tried to free the baby monster, but they stopped him from doing that. So characters, obviously, monster movie gets a 1. Appearance wise, I'm going to give Gorgo a 2. This was a 60s movie, early 60s, and they reused a lot of the same scenes over and over again, which I thought was a cheap way to make a movie. Maybe that's what they did in the 60s, I don't know. It was in color. I'm not giving it a 1, so I'm giving it a 2. Of course, the monster looked ridiculous. I thought it was funny. And so I don't see where else to give credit to a monster movie when all you really cared about was the monster. Finally, we have enjoyment. Enjoyment, I give a 5. Like, I love the fact how pissed off this monster was, and that, you know, it was the human's fault that all this was happening. So I was rooting for the monster like the whole time. I loved it. I love that fact. And you really don't see that in monster movies. Like, you know, you get to see certain ones where the monster is created because of human intervention, and now they have to pay for what they created. But this one, it was like already there, and now you started messing with it, and because of that, you reaping what you sowed. And then finally, after it got what it wanted, which was its own child, it went back to the sea, like, not to be messed with again. So it was really cool to me, and I gave the enjoyment 5. So looking at the numbers, we have the rewatch factor being a 2. We have the storyline being a 4. The characters being a 1. The appearance being a 2, and the enjoyment being a 5. So with all that, that equals a 14. That 14 equals a C. Does this movie, Gorgo of 1961, is it good enough to get into the big book of movies? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say yes. And it's not unfortunately, it's fortunately. I just love the fact that the monster was in the right. I know I keep saying that, but you don't really see that. And even though it is kind of ridiculous, like, and I don't feel it's a Godzilla knockoff, I'm always going to remember this movie. So I will like it in my big book. That's all the time we have here today, Mr. J's Big Book of Movies. I hope you're enjoying Monster Movie Month. Don't forget you can follow me anytime, anywhere on Facebook, our Facebook fan page at I4Mr. J, our Twitter page at I4NI, spelled just like the podcast. The podcast, I For Now with Mr. J, available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Don't forget you can email me anytime, anywhere, mws_216@yahoo.com. And below, most important of all, subscribe and comment. Let me know how I'm doing so I can improve the show and make it more happy for you. And as far as I'm concerned, this chapter is now closed.